Hey everyone, welcome back to Then and Now. I'm Julian Zelizer of the Longview.
And I'm Jonathan Alter of Old Goats.
I've been thinking this week about the War Powers Resolution. The Senate the Senate Republicans just killed a resolution that was being pushed initially with support from both parties to put limits on what the administration could do. Back in 1973, Congress was dealing with a president using war powers aggressively. Congress had been responding both to the war in Vietnam and then, as we discussed last week, to the discovery and then announcement that Nixon was expanding the conflict into Cambodia. And in 1973, with bipartisan support, strong bipartisan support, Congress passed the War Powers Resolution, which put requirements on how a president had to notify Congress about the deployment of troops, put a timetable on how long those deployments could last. And it was a major reform of war powers, the first effort since the U.S. went into Korea in 1950 to start to try to claw back some of what the executive branch had gained. It hasn't worked as intended. Clearly, the president remains powerful, but it's notable to see a moment when Congress did try and did create some framework that exists until this day. So I was thinking about that this week as a very different outcome happened, and I'm curious on your thoughts.
Well, this tussle between Congress and the president has existed in every administration, Democratic and Republican. So this is not one of those cases where Donald Trump is doing something that's unprecedented. This twilight zone, as they call it, between Article 1 and Article 2 powers in the Constitution is just part of the American experiment. And there will be this push and pull. But what was essentially settled on over the last, 50 years has been that there will be at least some notification to Congress. They usually use what they call the Gang of Eight, the 8 people in the congressional leadership. And the president informs them shortly before undertaking military action. Trump said he only talked to Republicans this time because the Democrats couldn't be trusted, which is a politicizing of this at a time when, traditionally politics ends at the water's edge. And that is unprecedented to not work with both parties when informing Congress. And the other question is, what happens after the 60 days specified in the resolution expire? George W. Bush went to Congress for the authorization for the use of force, and his father did as well. And so there is, some precedent for Congress demanding that if troops stay anywhere for a long enough period of time, that they will get to vote on it. We'll see whether Trump leaves troops anywhere long enough for that to be an issue. But the shorter term notifications that are required under that law, he just blew right through.
Well, it's an important comparison, and those are important points, both about precedent and ways in which what we saw were different, which is always the challenge, I think, in looking at the administration. That was then and now. John, we'll talk next week, and always a pleasure to share this space.
Thanks, Julian.
Bye bye.